What do you think about like drinking alcohol and caffeine? Do you think that that's a good idea to do when you're traveling?
No,
Why is it?
it makes you more awake. Hey everybody, welcome back to Wellness Wizards. Today we will be talking about sleep and jet lag. And this is the perfect time to do it because we're actually in a hotel room right now.
Yep, we've been traveling. So, all right, so I'm going to tell you something about a patient, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on with her.
Okay.
Raquel is a 35-year-old consultant who has to travel frequently for work. She lives in the United States and frequently travels to Europe. She notices that when she travels, she has a difficult time acclimating to the new time. She feels tired and has trouble concentrating. She has frequent migraine headaches and is desperate to find a way to acclimate her sleep. In the past, her doctor prescribed her a sleep medication called Ambien, but she never used it because she was always worried about the potential side effects. The lack of sleep is catching up with her. She wants to take melatonin instead. She has heard that this is a sleep hormone naturally made by the body. She does not need a prescription for it, so she Googled how much she should be taking, and the range says anywhere from 0.1 to 10 milligrams. She isn't sure how much she should actually take, and she's asking for your advice.
Okay.
All right.
0.1 to 10. Oh, wow, that's a lot difference.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that it really just depends on your weight.
Well, that is true in pediatrics. We dose medications by weight, but she's an adult, and medications aren't dosed by weight for adults for the most part. Most medications.
I just gotta figure out your age.
So, first of all, do you know what melatonin is?
Yes, it's a thing that teaches you when it's light out, you're supposed to be awake, and when it's dark out, you're supposed to be asleep.
Yeah, so it's a hormone that's made in the brain. It's made in a gland of the brain called the pineal gland.
Okay.
And it is one of the hormones that is implicated in that circadian rhythm that we talked about. Remember that 24-hour sleep cycle?
Yeah.
Okay. So it kind of tells us when it's time to sleep. So when it's light outside, our melatonin levels go down.
Okay.
And when it's getting darker, as it's getting darker, our melatonin levels start to rise. And then we start feeling kind of sleepy.
Okay.
Okay. The reason that we know that our melatonin has to go up or down is we get visual cues of light through our eyes.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because normally when I wake up, it's never really dark out. It's always just when the sun is coming up.
That's right. And if you'll notice that when we turn on the lights, that's when you start kind of waking up, right? You kind of recognize, your brain recognizes it, even though your eyes are closed.
Yeah, and if it's dark outside, and I wake up early, because on Fridays I have to go to bed, and I wake up early, I have trouble getting out of bed because I wake up at 5:40.
Okay.
So I have to set the alarm for sooner because I know it takes me longer to get out of bed because it's dark.
That's right. All right. What do you think happens to people who have problems with their vision, like people who are blind or who have cataracts, which their corneas become?
Don't know.
You don't know what happens? What do you think might be happening? Do you think that they have normal sleep cycles?
Because you did just say something like the light goes through our eyes, and when we're asleep, we can still see the light because that's when I wake up. So even if you're blind, I think that your brain knows. And also because they know what time it is.
Yeah, so they do have some sort of a circadian rhythm, but it's a little bit different and it's kind of off kilter. So, the fact that they can't really perceive the light as well, if they're blind or if they have some problems with their cornea and it's cloudy for them, they don't perceive the light the same way that we do.
Okay.
So their melatonin levels are kind of, they go up and down at different times.
Okay.
So let's just think about when we are traveling east, for example, okay? So let's just say we're traveling, we're not traveling to Europe in this case because that's not what we do very often, but sometimes we do travel. We live on the West Coast, so we travel to the East Coast, okay? Yeah. Okay, so when we go to Florida, we're traveling east.
Okay.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So when we get there, we're not really sleepy usually, but by the time we get there, it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Right? That's when...
That's because they're 3 hours ahead of us.
Because there's 3 hours ahead of us. There's 3 time zones ahead of us. Okay?
Yeah. So we're still stuck in our time zone.
Yeah. So if we want to kind of be drowsy when it's time for bedtime over there, like a normal bedtime, maybe around 9 o'clock, we would want to take melatonin about 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Okay.
And that's the same time in California.
Before the no. It has nothing to do with being the same time in California. When you take melatonin,
it takes time to kick in.
It takes time to kick in. So it kind of gradually goes up. So so when we're traveling to the East Coast, normally we leave here when it's daytime, but by the time we get there, it's darker, right? It's nighttime. And for us, it's still like afternoon. So we don't really feel sleepy, right? Because we're used to the West Coast time. So when we go to the East Coast, what is one way that we could kind of acclimate to the time? What do you think we could do?
We'd have to do things to get ready before the time zone.
What does that mean?
Like, even if it's 3 hours, you still gotta get ready. Not 3 hours, maybe like 1 to 2 hours before.
Okay. So that means that you want to have maybe dim lights. So you start to
blinds closed.
Yeah, you close the blinds. You make sure that you only are exposed to dim lights for about 1 hour, at least
And
1 hour before.
No blue light.
Yeah, and no blue light exposure. Very good. Right? So you want to get away from any kind of screens for at least 1 to 2 hours before. And then another thing we can do, since we were talking about melatonin, is we can take melatonin about 3 to 4 hours before our desired bedtime. So if we want to go to bed by 9 o'clock, then you can take some melatonin by about
5.
Yeah, by about 5 or 6 p.m. And the dose is actually much lower than what most people end up taking. So the dose is really about 0.25 milligrams. Okay, so it's a much lower dose that we need. Sometimes you need a second dose. So if you still aren't feeling sleepy about 30 to 60 minutes before the desired bedtime, then you can take a second dose of the 0.25 milligrams.
Okay, but then what do you have to wait another 3 4 hours before you fall?
No, because it's
it's
just
second dose.
It's a second dose, and it's adding on, and you're also making sure that you have the dim lights right beforehand. And then in the morning, you want to make sure that you are exposing yourself to very bright light. Okay. So like early in the morning, within 30 minutes of waking up, expose yourself to very bright light. So then that helps to acclimate. Okay. Also, drinking lots of water when you're traveling helps to hydrate. And that helps with the sleep process. So another thing just to remember is that melatonin is not something that we want to take chronically. Okay. So it's just something to help as what we call a phase shifter. So it just helps to shift us into the time zone. So generally no more than 5 days of taking melatonin. All right. So a lot of people take it all the time, and then it's really not as effective if you're taking it all the time. Actually, I've probably given it to you once.
Isn't it in like Benadryl or something?
No, it's not in Benadryl.
So I know something in Benadryl makes you drowsy.
Benadryl can make you drowsy, and some people do take Benadryl to not feel as drowsy, but Benadryl is different.
You said to feel more less drowsy.
Oh, sorry. Yes, to feel drowsy so that they can go to sleep. Melatonin is a hormone that we naturally make.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think about like drinking alcohol and caffeine? Do you think that that's a good idea to do when you're traveling?
No.
Why is it?
It makes you more awake.
That's right. So alcohol can affect the sleep cycles. It can reduce, and we'll talk about REM sleep and non-REM sleep, but alcohol can reduce REM sleep. So that can definitely affect your sleep quality. And caffeine also can delay sleep. Okay. So those are two things that generally I would say if you're really trying to focus on making sure you're getting enough sleep, to avoid those things. So now that we've talked about traveling to the East Coast, what do you think about traveling to the West Coast? Or just traveling west?
I think that everything is first. So you should have more light exposure.
Yeah, so you should have brighter light exposure until 1 hour before bedtime. Okay, so you want to make sure you have continuous bright light exposure until 1 hour before bedtime.
Blue light?
Well,
because then I love to travel west. Use the screen all day.
Yeah. So you can have blue light up until that 1 hour. But then at that 1 hour mark, you want to not have the blue light exposure. Yes. Okay. So just to reiterate, when we're going to the West Coast, we want to make sure that we're getting sunlight in the early afternoon. Okay. But then, and we don't have any dim light until the 1 hour before bedtime. So we continue to have bright light. Make sense? So then you're kind of sensing, your brain is sensing that it's still bright. You don't want to go to bed yet. Okay. And also, when one of the things is when we're eating. So what we eat makes a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you eat a diet rich in complex carbohydrates, at least 2 to 3 hours before, or about 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, that's ideal. Okay. So I mean complex carbohydrates, right? So whole grains, beans, vegetables that have a lot of fiber. Okay. If you eat simple carbohydrates, that can interfere with your sleep and it can actually make you feel more awake.
Okay.
All right. But if you eat complex carbohydrates 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, that also helps to kind of set the tone for you to be able to go to bed.
Understood.
Okay. So what are some simple carbohydrates that you could think of?
Pasta?
That's right.
That's the only one I got to see.
Cereal?
Yeah. So you want to eat those?
No, you want to avoid those at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime.
Okay.
Okay. You want to make sure you're eating complex carbohydrates.
Oh, God.
Makes sense? So candy, donuts, like white bread, not anything that's whole grain, but like...
Got it. Understood.
Okay. White rice.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So these are all considered simple carbohydrates.
Okay.
Okay, so anything else that you want to ask me about it or any questions you have?
Nope.
No? All right. So are you starting to feel a little bit sleepy?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think we should do?
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk? That might help.
Yeah.
So we can stay up a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
All right.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and click the comment button down below. Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.